for all of you who have gotten here on time. My name is Coach Mark, and I'll be with you for the next few minutes while we go through this. I'm it as far as anyone presenting, so I'll go through the program briefly, and then we'll certainly have time to open it up for questions on it. And you're welcome to put it in comments into the chat line, but I may wait until the end of that. Just I may not be able to see the chat line while I'm going through. So please try and stay muted unless you do want to make a comment. That'll just keep the background noise down for us. Appreciate that. Thanks. So who are we? Well, we are a national 501c3 nonprofit organization. Our mission to promote financial literacy and our commitment to providing a plan created by experts to help each individual who dreams of a higher education. And with our program, what we do is we assign a student a college planning coach, and that coach works directly with the student and the parents, as well as the consultant, to assist them with the college or university planning, admissions, and financial aid process. Our program is safe. We're fully online. Our services are delivered primarily by email, but we also do online meetings and phone as well. So, why have a program like this? The biggest challenge, of course, is the rising cost of college. Well, I'm sure that's not a surprise to any of you, given if you've kept your eyes on some of the tuitions at some of the different schools you might be interested, or the student might be interested in. But to give you some figures, the average cost of an in-state public institution, just for tuition, room and board, books and fees, is $23,190. Now, if that student goes out of state, then they become non-residents, and even again in public schools, the price goes up. And then go to a private school that is not in part funded by the federal or state government, it goes up even more. So students that graduate, they have an average debt of about $32,000 to $33,000. What is the real cost then of a college and university? It might surprise you to know that the average time it takes students to graduate with a bachelor's degree is about 5.5 years. And we'll get into some certain reasons why that is. Now, if you break that down into two different areas, if you look at just the cost of continuing on with your education, you're at about $35,000 just for the tuition. During that time, of course, you're probably not working. So now there's another $77,000 lost in wages for a total of well over $100,000 plus the added debt. So one has to ask, how much is the planning worth to you? There are different types of financial aid. And knowing how to maximize those opportunities to find the best option. There is certainly the federal aid. That's probably best known in the realm of what is known as FAFSA, the federal application for student aid. And then some states have state aid to augment that. There are private scholarships and grants. And there are a wealth of independent scholarships that students can apply for. Generally, they want the student to do an essay or a video, and then you're in competition. You'll see those at a national level. You'll see those at a state level. There is school-specific aid. The school that the student chooses to attend may have their own scholarship program. Sometimes they offer discounts in the realm of what might be called a scholarship. And then there are certainly loans. Federal aid sometimes consists of loans. Banks certainly will make loans from that as well. Then the next challenge you come to is choosing a career. And that might sound easy. Oh, my son or daughter wants to be a, fill in the blank. But, where do you start if the student doesn't know that? Well, certainly there are guidance counselors, and the guidance counselors, any college planning coach is not there to take the place of a guidance counselor. But if you look at the average guidance counselor in high school has 455 students to deal with, all that means is you're going to be limited in how much time you can spend with that guidance counselor. So will the career, so looking at certain careers in the realm of how relevant are they? For example, will the career be available when you graduate? So that relevancy becomes key. And then choosing which post-high school option is the best. And college and university may not be the only answer. There are certainly trade and vocational trainings, and I had two of my three children chose that route. One chose the university, but the other two went to a trade school. And then going through a gap year. And a gap year is something that sometimes you have to be careful with that, because sometimes for some students who don't plan their gap year well, the gap year turns into just a year of wandering because the student doesn't know where to go to get help on it. Then challenge number 3 is going to be choosing a major. What are you focusing on? What does the student want to do with that? How are you reaching your goals? 20 to 50% of students start college as undecided or undeclared or exploratory students, depending upon which way you go. And I've seen that happen, as I used to be an academic advisor for Metropolitan State University of Denver. And we had a body of advisors in there that were totally committed to trying to help undeclared, exploratory, whatever students. But then some students didn't take advantage of that. They felt they could do it on their own, or they were taking classes just sort of wandering, hoping that whatever class they took sort of struck them as one they might like, or hoping that the light bulb would come on. And then even if a student came to college with a major, students change their major an average of 3 times. And that was a lot of what I was dealing in my last years there, because one of my jobs was not to deal with the undeclared or exploratory students, but for those students that came to college saying, I want to be a chemistry major, I want to be a nursing student, but then all of a sudden realizing, no, this isn't the path that I think I want. I've talked to a few people now, and I've decided that chemistry or nursing or whatever isn't for me. A lot of students don't understand what they can do with any particular career. Some students are very literal. They think that a psychology degree, for example, might, they'd come into me and they'd say, I'm a psychology major, but, I don't want to be a therapist. And I'd say, well, why do you think you have to be a therapist? And they go, well, what else can a psychology student do? And there were many options for that student. They could work in the marketing department, for a company, or another one that was popular was philosophy students. Philosophy students have a real good education in critical thinking skills, problem solving, things of that nature. And they, a few college philosophy students would come and say, hey, I don't want to teach philosophy, but I don't know what I want to do. I says, well, it depends all on how you sell yourself. So if you want to, work for a company that's looking for an employee with critical thinking skills, and that would be a gem for most companies, then that's how you bill yourselves. And so that time equals money. That's no surprise, I'm sure, to many of you on that that money, the time that is spent in researching that once you're in college might translate into lost revenue for the individual. Challenge number 4. So college selection. How do I even choose? And we help students with that aspect. And so most students selecting schools, come up with, well, my friends went there. Oh, it's a party school. I want to go and party. It is close to home. It's far from home. Maybe some of these sound familiar to people that have made that choice. And that becomes important because as the other one says, 25% of undergraduate students transfer schools. Well, so what? Do not all classes transfer? Well, they may, but then the biggest thing for that then is if those classes that are taken transfer, do they also apply to the student's new degree? So, one good example that I could think of is I would have students in our music department when I was at the university that came in and said, well, I didn't realize that this school was and I came into it for music, but I don't want to play music. I want to work the soundboard for different musicians. I want to operate the controls and the sound levels and the recordings for all that. How do I get into that major? And I said, well, this school doesn't offer that major. Well, what do I do now? Well, you got to go to this other school. There was a school on the same campus, different school, but on the same campus, that they had to go and apply to that did do music production. Well, the classes that they had been taking have been performance classes for music, and now they're looking at a whole new set of classes, or maybe not a complete new set, but different classes for some part of it. How many schools do I apply for? I see a lot of ambitious students that go, I'm going to apply to 50 schools, or, and I'm going to get all these, different schools in. I said, well, consider this as a senior. When you're applying for schools, you're also doing your financial aid applications. You might be taking advanced classes that you're having to study more for. You're writing essays for many of these schools. And even if you do a common application, sometimes those schools that get sent out to ask you to do an additional application. So, we generally tell them narrow that down to a smaller group and how to investigate what schools that they want to apply to would be beneficial for them. Some schools, of course, there's from time to time I hear, I want to go to Harvard. And it's like, well, wait a minute, you better ace the ACT or SAT test, and I didn't get good scores in that. Well, your GPA better be right up there in the 4.0s. You better do all this extracurricular activities and so on. So, well, maybe I shouldn't apply to that. Well, yeah, okay, that makes sense. Or if they have done to it, yeah, you're a good candidate. Go ahead and apply to that. So again, we're back to that time equals money, because if a student is filling out an application and paying an application fee to a school that they have not qualified for, then or they really don't have a good chance of getting into, it might be money not well spent. So what is your plan as a student? Which, do you have a plan? Might be even better on it. So to look at it from a bit of a time sharing thing, how much time is left. The ninth grade students really are in a pretty good shape. They have 720 days until college. What does that mean? Well, that means that if they have certain schools that they think they want to go to, and they know that those schools require a certain GPA, that gives them a lot of time to work on that. Because most colleges, when they look at your grades, will be looking at 9th, 10th, and 11th grade. And so 12th grade, is, as far as trying to up your GPA, is probably not going to work. 10th grade, 540 days until college, and 9th and 10th grade, you can be out there exploring new colleges and looking at them, visiting them, things like that. 11th grade, you have 360 days until college, and by the end of 11th grade, you should be pretty firm on what college you want to go to, and a fair idea of what your major will be. And 12th grade, college is right around the corner. So the benefits of the Heartland Institute of Financial Education College Coaching Program: you have one-to-one individualized attention, and the average caseload of students is per coach is 65. Coaches can take how many or how few students as they deem they have time for. None are forced on the either coach. I know some students, there are some coaches that are comfortable with 15 students. I know some coaches that are comfortable with 300 students, but they generally have other people helping them along. The coach will help come up with a strategy to maximize the academic options in high school. And the coach is going to be honest. If the coach feels that maybe a community college is the best option, or a gap year is the best option, they're going to present that to the student. But then there's a plan in place going forward there too. The coach helps guide the students on a well-rounded experience in high school. Some high school students think that all they got to do is come up with a good GPA and a good SAT/ACT score, and they're in. And that's not the case. There will be emphasis put on doing extracurricular activities, joining clubs, to give them a richer experience and make them an outstanding admissions candidate for a prospective school. So it's hands-on, career-focused research. We have different software and websites that will help the student with assessment to look at, and then financial aid navigation, so that when you come upon a financial aid kind of situation in the senior year, then we review applications for the student, note things that might be triggers to the federal government for review on that, and try and get around that. So we tailor the college search to fit the need of each student. We have essay review, and this is important. Really, your four biggies in colleges anymore are going to be assessment scores is one, but then even in that, some colleges like the University of California, they don't even require SAT scores anymore. Well, that doesn't mean you get a free ride to get in. What they do is they start placing emphasis on the other three. And the other three will be such things as the GPA, and then they're going to look at the rigor of classes the student took. Did they take all generals classes, or did they challenge themselves with honors classes or AP classes or IB classes? Did they do dual enrollment with a local college so that they have some college credits to walk into the college with? And as a third requirement, and then the essays. Well, a lot of engineering students are very left brain kinds of students. They do wonderful at the math and the science and everything, but maybe an essay, writing an essay isn't their best, choice. So what we offer is the student can write an essay, send it to the coach. The coach then forwards that on to our professional reviewers. The reviewers will go through that, mark up with comments on what they think can be improved, return that to the coach, and then the coach sends it back to the student. The student then can, if they so choose, revise that and send it back again for an additional review. So we can do this with scholarship essays as well. So if the student wants to apply for an independent scholarship, the student can certainly do that. To give you an idea of some of the results that our 2019-2020 program had, is we found that students graduate college in an average of 4 years. We have helped students get in scholarship dollars over $20 million. And then a lot of people do not realize that you can negotiate that. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't, but if you don't do anything, it certainly doesn't. So we help them with templates on how to write a reevaluation, and schools have come back with $351,000 in more aid, reviewed over 2,000 essays, help students get accepted into summer camps and internships. And to give you an example of some of the different schools, the list is there. You can take a look at it and see some of the ones: Princeton, Yale, Harvard, and so on. So who are our coaches? Our coaches are traditionally educators with 20 plus years in the workforce. As well, they're fully vetted, they're trained, and they're student focused. We as coaches, and I am a coach, I'm not in management, we focus on the student. I tell the student, I says, they are my boss, really. Not that we don't listen to parents, but we put the student number one, but certainly work with parents, work with consultants to help the student do well. We have a variety of different programs. There's a full-blown program. The full college coaching program is comprehensive. It gives all of the options below, plus the student gets unlimited access to their coach. They can write as many emails to them as they want. Additional recommendations, access to special webinars that we have. A real popular one in the fall is our FAFSA webinar right after October 1st on it. And I just did one today on college selection, how to choose a college, and they have that for the full 12 months. But if that's not what the student needs, if they just need career assessment and guidance, they can do that. College selection and admissions guidance, financial aid navigation, application and essay review, those are all independent programs that they get some time with the coach. Or if you just want post-high school planning, we can help a student transition into a college environment for if that's all they need. So if this is of interest to you, what we would suggest would be to contact the college planning consultant who invited you to this event. And you're welcome to follow up with the Heartland Institute of Financial Education College Coaching Program directly. In a moment, I'll share email and phone information on that. There are payment options available for the comprehensive program, and you can begin working with a coach in less than 5 business days. So Again, the consultant is going to be someone, to help you with. Somebody said they have to log off, so talk to the consultant, or there's a number there, 303-597-0197, or you can email the HIFE CPP at hife-usa.org on it. So those are that. That's the bulk of what I have to share. So what I'm going to do is open this up to the group, and we can go a couple of different ways. If you would like to go ahead and unmute yourself and ask a question, that's fine. But if you feel more comfortable typing it into the Zoom group chat, feel free to do that, and I'll try to answer it, but out loud from there. So go ahead. Question I have is, on average, how often does the coach and the student meet? That'll depend upon the student. Most of the communication is done by email. So, the email is a kind of thing where we would send recommendations. We'd encourage the student to go ahead and send an email if they have a question. If the student wants to meet, we can, but I know sometimes, especially when students get into the program or school year rather, that they get busy and whatnot, and it's a lot easier doing it that way. But we can do a Zoom meeting such as this with a student. If the student says, hey, I want to show you something, that came. I've had students do this with me. They get their financial aid award like a senior and says, hey, let me show this to you because I don't understand this at all. It's like, yeah, sure. What does subsidized mean? What does unsubsidized mean? And we help them with that. Or I've done phone calls sometimes. They say, I don't need to show you anything, but it would take more than an email to do this. Can we just chat by phone? And the only thing we ask on the Zoom meetings and the phones is let's sort of go into look at a time that's convenient for both of us. So then we say another question: are the coaches charged by hour? It's those fees that you saw before. There's no hourly charge on that. It's just, if you decided to go with a $24.95 comprehensive program, there would be no hourly charge. We don't offer a charge by the hour. You would be better off just going with one of the smaller plans if the comprehensive program was too much, or perhaps the post-high school planning if that met more with you. But there's no hourly charge. You would be paying Heartland rather than the coach. Let's see. Then we have one. Let me read this. I have to, what you would want to do, somebody's asking for the PowerPoint. There is a different one, I think, that is for consultants. What you would want to do is use that HIFE CPP at hife-usa.org. That will get you to the dean. I am not authorized to email the PowerPoint out. But if you want to contact Megan Pendley Pickett, who is the dean, at that email, she would be happy to discuss what she has for consultants. Other questions?
I have a question.
Yes.
I have a son who's in finishing his associates, so I'm wondering how this program could help him. He's Yeah, and then I have a senior in high school. And if you could speak about the timeline, like the urgency for applying for financial aid.
Okay, well, let's address one at a time. What would you hope to get out of a program such as this, based on what you've seen, for someone who's about to finish an associate's degree?
You're asking me what I would want out of this?
Right.
Um, I don't know if there is like scholarship applications that he could fill out. And so getting some financial aid and or guidance in choosing a career.
Certainly guidance in choosing a career, although I would be, really concerned, what do you know what the associate degree is in?
Associate in science.
Okay. With
He,
any plan for afterwards?
I think he's leaning toward a education degree.
Okay. I mean, certainly we could guide, in that realm, as far as a career. Absolutely. Scholarships, what we would provide would be national scholarships. These would be scholarships that the student, it's like a part-time job, really. So we would say, here's a link, and go, that we think that this would be appropriate for you. And then it would be on the responsibility of the student to access that, look at the scholarship, say, do I want, and it could be, just to give you an example, it might be a company who manufactures seat belts. And they would say, write us an essay on the importance of wearing a seat belt. And so then the student would then write that essay up, and it'd give them the details. It should be, 250 words, 500 words, 1,000 words, whatever. And then they could send that to us. And then we would forward that to the reviewer. The reviewer would make comments, and then the student could do another review if they so desired, and then the student would forward that. But it's not Heartland coaches actively going after scholarships. It's going to be providing resources that the student would then move forward with it. Does that help?
Yeah.
Okay, so that's the student in college. By associate's degree, sophomore year, they better have a pretty doggone good idea. So yeah, that's going to be real important for the student at this point, because when he or she goes to a four-year school, they're going to say, "What's your major?" And it's too late to say undeclared anymore, because they've done so much. Now, on the senior, this is going to be a big help too, no problem. Is it too late? No, it's not too late. However, there's a lot of work to be done. I mean, we would help the student with applying for financial aid. And you asked, I think, about, is it too late? No. Fall, October of your senior year is when you start applying for the FAFSA, that federal application. And if you have that done by the end of October, and you're good to go there. But now realize the colleges that the student applies to will not look at that FAFSA until the student's accepted. Okay, because the college, if the college has 50,000 applications and they only take 10,000 students, it would not be in their best interest to look at everything and say, here's this. So you're not going to see anything more come out of that school until you're accepted. Now, once you're accepted to that school will tell you, based on your FAFSA, here's how much you get out of that. And then based on the, your grades and your essays and your rigor of classes and whatnot, we may or may not have additional scholarships for you. in that. So that's how you find out that way. The college application process, we review those applications. If the student has need for, hey, I wrote this, here's one of their questions, or the essays, absolutely. And the student would certainly, if they haven't figured out what they want to do when they go to college, we get them started, but it would be, a little more fast-tracked and a little encouraged a little bit more. Let's see if we can at least narrow this down to 2 or 3 possible majors that you can get into. So, the freshmen, the sophomores, that buys them a little bit more time, but then as they mature too, they might change. So we can help both. We can help both on it, but in different ways. Anything else? Other questions? I see one more. It says, will Heartland entertain direct call from a prospect without first registering into the program? Absolutely. If so, who in Heartland do they need to talk to? That would be Megan. And that phone number, the 303-597-0197 would be the one. Megan would be again, she's the dean. Always happy if you wanted to go more in depth, because we want to make sure that who we accept are right for this program. And so, we can do more, and we would rather have you, spend a little time before you say, yes, I want to, than to get in and go, no, this wasn't what I thought it was going to be. So absolutely, it would be Megan. Then Peter says, would we have access to college database of acceptance rates by major or program? Sure. If Google is Bing, Yahoo, and giving away trade secrets, but maybe, but everyone has that. So, and this is what we encourage students to do. If you want to go to Harvard, if you want to go to Yale, if you want to go to Berkeley, go look at their website. Go look at their admissions website. You can, and if you Google Stanford, undergraduate incoming freshman statistics, it'll break it down for you. I mean, you'll find out generally their site. I've seen other sites. There are other independent groups out there that you might see come up in addition to the college that will say, yeah, we've accepted, Stanford accepted this many, had this many applications. They accepted this many students. Of those students that were accepted, this many, the average GPA was this, the average ACT, SAT score was this. It'll even break it down into ethnicity. We had this many percentage of, this ethnic group, that ethnic group. So not anything that you need special access to, Peter. It's out there for you to gather that right now. And students should be looking at this. A lot of high schools set the student up with this too, to say, go investigate this. So again, so you aren't, and I generally have my students do a little spreadsheet, take your schools and see what is the average, GPA, what is the average SAT, ACT, and so on. Good question, Peter. What else? Again, feel free to unmute yourself if you wish. Well, I always count to 10 elephants, old teacher's trick. That's 1 elephant, 2 elephants. You get to 10 and nobody's asked a question, then probably you got them. So with that, I want to thank you so much for coming in tonight. Again, that was the email. If you choose to send an email, is that HIFE CPP at hife-usa.org. The website is collegecoaching.org. And if you want to do a phone call, that's area code 303-597-0157. Got one more question that I'll answer. It says, prospect's daughter currently in high honors at her school, and they felt they don't need a college coaching. What would you recommend to tell my prospect so to convince to register into the program? I'd have to know a little bit more about why the person at her school felt that way. It depends, I mean, the thing on this is if, I've seen some things, reviews on the website, where it said, well, this is nothing different that I could have found on online. And, to some degree that's true, on it, but then you got to know what you're looking for, on that. So if, the student isn't sure what they're looking for, or the parents aren't sure what they're looking for online, how do you find it? As they say, you don't know what you don't know. Sometimes having somebody knowledgeable to talk more one-on-one, via email or phone is helpful. Again, simply having high marks doesn't guarantee that you're getting in. I would hope that your prospect's daughter is also doing extracurricular things, that they can find scholarships on their own, that they write good essays that will get them into college. And if they think they can, no, the Heartland program is not for your prospect's daughter. But if they've some of the things I've mentioned raise questions to the prospect about getting in there. I wish I had this. I mean, I went to college, and when it came time for my son, things have changed so much. Between when I went to college and when my son went to college, I'm asking guidance counselor, where do I find scholarships? Where do I do this? Where do I do that? And I wasn't getting any hard and fast answers off of it. So, that's sort of the best I can offer on that one. So, okay. With that, I think I'm going to call an end to this. I appreciate, again, all of you coming. Thank you so much. And please give us a call or an email with any other questions or concerns that you have. So I hope you have a wonderful evening. Thank you again, and hope to talk to you soon. Bye.